how does an MMM actually work?
This is what fucking fires me up, dude, is like, this is a game about math. And now people are starting to pay attention that the math matters. Gartner says 60% of agentic AI projects are going to fail by the end of 2027.
Yeah, it becomes a clusterfuck for a marketer.
We see a ton of brands that are spending at the wrong time in advance of these seasonal moments. It's like driving down the highway, opening up the sunroof and just letting the money fly out the top of it.
Okay, so Mike is the co-founder and CEO of Prescient, which is a media mix modeling platform. You have a pretty storied career in AI sales, working for IBM, and then I can't remember where were you?
Oracle, IBM, App Annie, and some AI consulting firms.
And you actually have a pretty interesting story about how you fell into Prescient, but I don't think we go there today.
No.
Let's talk more about like what is media mix modeling?
Let's talk about media mix modeling, of why it started, what did it do, and then how people viewed it in the modern times, and then where is it going in the future. 1960s, you had people that sold a water bottle in a retail store. And how did you advertise for it? On a billboard, TV, catalog, radios, newspapers. You're not clicking any of those channels, but you still spent money on them, and people walked in the store and they purchased the water bottle. So what they would do is they would try to gather as much information as they could about how much you spent on each channel. And then, how many households did the ad show up on TV? How many households was this, coupon sent to? Long story short, they got a bunch of people together and they try to put as much, marketing data and sales data together in a statistical model to try to figure out attribution, and then do some sort of media planning and budget planning. Say, okay, for this upcoming year, if we want to sell the most amount of water bottles in this location, let's increase our investment on the billboards and let's increase our investments on the radio based off of like what the measurement is saying, right? You can't click anything back in the day. So you're just looking at spend to revenue and what other variables you could layer in there.
So a media mix model, MMM, helps you better understand where to invest your dollars to maximize an output or an outcome. For most brands, that's like revenue.
Or new customers. The traditional MMMs are just like a revenue metric. As they started to get more advanced, you can evolve what that output, what that outcome is. And that's something, we obviously do really well. So people have used MMMs before the internet, and then the internet started and you could track everybody around the internet. MMMs kind of like took a back seat in a little bit. Maybe they'd run something once a year, twice a year, once every other year, try to figure out some budgets. The internet comes, you can track everybody everywhere. And so you have more of a deterministic customer journey. Attribution theoretically was a little bit easier, right? Because you can actually track where people are going across device, mobile, web, all that sort of jazz. Actually, this is before mobile. And then iOS 14.5 hits, well, the internet hits. And now you can start spending on, Meta, Instagram, obviously Google, then YouTube comes out. But predominantly, most of the brands were spending on, as you know,
Meta
and Google, right?
Yeah.
Two channels driving to their Shopify store. As you well know with your agency, where do people go? Well, I'm going to go into Amazon, right? I'm going to go into wholesale, or maybe I'm going to stand up brick and mortar stores. And hey, there's these tools like Keen's Digital and Neon Pixel and Tatari and all these different CTV providers, Vibe, that now you can go and advertise on connected TV in a pretty low barrier to entry, right? Just from a technology perspective. Now, an MTA is not designed, right? Multi-touch attribution is not designed to measure those channels, because multi-touch attribution is a deterministic model. There's probabilistic and there's deterministic. Deterministic model is going to say, Lucas, right, clicked this ad, got an IP address, then might have clicked another ad, got that IP address, and then checked out at another time. And now you can kind of stitch up those IP addresses, say this is deterministically the path that Lucas took to purchase.
We can 100% give credit to
100%.
This.
So if you have 100 conversions and deterministically, you can explain on Meta and Google, maybe because there's more click-based channels, less channels, you can explain 80, 90% of your conversions just through those clicks.
And so is in platform attribution, it's deterministic?
It's deterministic in the sense that it's within the walled garden of the ad platforms, right?
Yeah.
And they're within their own ecosystem. But that's where the problem comes to, is they're all taking credit for the same conversions, right?
Yeah. So if you put Klaviyo, Meta, Google, and you just add up conversions, you have an inflated revenue figure.
Over 100%, right?
Yeah. So then you have multi-touch attribution, which is deterministic aggregation of all of those
Correct.
channels.
Well said, perfectly. It tells you a lot about a little, right? It tells you a lot about those two channels. What happens when you go into TV or podcasts or YouTube, or
Radio.
TikTok, radio, linear, out of home.
Yeah, it becomes a clusterfuck for a marketer.
Because all you have is a spend signal. Maybe you get some impressions. Maybe you get some reported revenue from whatever pixel the CTV provider has.
And this is what I love, because I've been in the trenches with marketers. It's like you actually see how those budgets get put together, and it's very much just, by the proclivity of the marketer on that day. You're like, this kind of feels right. We'll invest here.
Listen, like you.
And I mean, that's what good marketers make a lot of money. They have like experience and feeling. And so that's part of their calculus in deploying, but it's not math based.
It's not math based. And listen, I'm not going to derail this too much, but like I fundamentally disagreed with the message that measurement providers were talking to these brands about. And I would come from the space. So I'm meeting people like, well, this is my source of truth. And I'm like, why are these people telling these marketers that the source of truth is the marketer? Point blank, period, stop, right? There's different forms of measurement, right? You have your MTA, that's click base. You have incrementality, that is this incremental at a point in time. You have an MMM, this is probabilistic, right? Statistical AI-driven models. You have a post-purchase survey that could have, forgetful mindset on that as well. And the marketers just come in and they just want to feel confident in the bet that they're going to make.
Yeah.
They're going to take their own calculated risk and they use their own human intuition. They grew these brands to what they are today. And maybe it was on just a couple of channels, and it gets more complex when you start layering on additional channels.
That's why you have different skill sets. I think different places where marketers really work, and entrepreneurs too. Like you have the 0 to 1 people that are comfortable operating with zero past data, and they're making calculated bets. Like MMM is not a good fit for a startup business that is testing the waters for the first time and is operating on a few channels. Like,
yeah.
Right. But then you have marketers who, they're CMOs and they're coming into established businesses that are running millions in advertising, and they have multiple sales channels. And that's when you want to use a tool like an MMM.
I mean, you've been in the game for long enough where it's 2020, 2021, even 2022. I'm sure there wasn't a ton of buzz around people talking about an MMM. It's a lot of buzz around
post iOS 14. Like you had a couple. I remember our team. We started digging up.
You guys actually started building. You guys are actually forward thinking on that.
We built an MMM. We were using lightweight. Yeah. And we would dig up that 1962 article. There was one I think from the 80s, and this was like the old these statistical models for MMM, and like
forever.
Yeah, but there's some. I remember there. You could build up a model, but they were very unwieldy. Like you'd refresh them once a quarter, maybe once a month. They're not the right fit for every type of brand. If you're only spending on a couple channels, it's like, why use an MMM? Like you don't really need to do that. And then also the major thing though is education though, 100%. Because you had all of these marketers who are very used to deterministic attribution or MTA, and they like want to know, and educating them on MMM and incrementality. It's like it's different sides of the brain.
It's been a very interesting journey to see people who have said, I built my own MMM before, all the way to, hey, my boss heard about you guys on a podcast and I just watched a YouTube video and I built my business on Triple Whale using a pixel, right? Figuring out a way to simplify that down was something we're getting better and better at, but for sure, dude, it's a hurdle. Like
it's the tech and it's user experience. Yeah. We looked at a ton of MMM platforms, like after we were like, fuck, like we're not going to be the guys to build this internally. And I was very impressed with what you've built out of every single provider because of the user experience and because of how unique, like you were like, you're an Amazon business and a Shopify business. Like we're going to crush it for you.
I was just chatting about this today. I mean, obviously up here in New York and, doing the rounds a little bit, but we were talking about this MMMs are in a very teenage sort of phase right now, because if you think about what the MMM was designed to do, it was designed to do a long-term budget plan. And this is how they were designed to do. They were always thought of like a bunch of humans coming together. Think of a Nielsen. It's $1 million. It's a PDF report. It's a bunch of macro data, micro data, third party, first party data. And they're trying to figure out what is that upcoming mix for the year. And then you had folks like us start to come in and say, well, you could use still the same probabilistic models, similar inputs, but why can't the model run every day? Why do you have to run this once a year?
Yeah.
Right? Why can't you do it at a campaign level? And so then the ecosystem started to take the existing research paper and what you see from a lot of the newer MMMs that are in the space, it'll run weekly or monthly, at a tactic or channel level. But the thing that I think a lot of folks need to know is the MMM can produce the results, but the MMM has to recalibrate and has to like essentially start fresh. It needs to get a fresh start. And a lot of these models are refreshing every 3 months. And so we just had a brand come on and they were using an MMM and the guy was like, if the model's refreshing 3 months ago, the model's going to think it's like tariff times. There's too much time that has been happened into it between when the model refreshes. So this is what people are starting to wake up to now. It's like, okay, well, we use it for this long-term budget plan and we didn't need to refresh it for a full year. And then we come out and we're like, we can refresh this thing every single day at a campaign level, very granular. And then the traditional research that's in the space now is it okay and is it safe to be using an MMM that in a dynamic way that only updates every 3 months, right? And that's where you see a lot of the problem with the open sources, like with the Robins and with the Meridians, right? These things are expensive to run. They're clunky.
They're also not really optimized for e-commerce. Like these like questionable like seasonality components,
Huge.
brand drives. Yeah, those are some of the things I was learning about, and we're like, okay, someone's going to build a solution for this. So talk to us about the math. Like, how does an MMM actually work?
So the models are going to look at all of your historical, you brought up a good point of seasonality. It's going to ingest all of your historical data. So it's going to look at your revenue by day, your new orders by day, and new customers by day through Shopify, through Amazon, and through retail. It's going to pull your GA data, right? And so for us specifically, we look at conversions that happen through GA. We build submodels that have paid, organic, and direct, right? And then you have all of your attribution data from your ad channels. So you have your spend, impressions, clicks, sessions, reported revenue from Meta, Google, whatever those channels are. So once you ingest that data, what are you trying to figure out? Well, you're trying to figure out one thing is the seasonality of the business, right? You look at seasonality from an annual perspective, a quarterly perspective, a monthly perspective, a weekly perspective, and you're trying to quantify like a baseline. What is the impact of just the worth of the value of the brand in these sort of seasonal moments? The most important part, or a very important part about an MMM is you have to try to control for everything. Everything meaning of all the things that could drive somebody to the website to convert. And what is that really? It's a viral moment. It's word of mouth. It's brand equity. It's seasonality. It's just randomness of somebody being thirsty and walking into a store, right? Once you quantify that and you get kind of comfortable with that baseline is over time, then you can start layering on what you can measure. And what's that? The spend across your paid channels. Well, how do you get confident in an MMM? In an MMM is you backtest against the actuals. So historically, hey, I am going to see if I could predict last December of your revenue, and I'm going to train on everything up to that. And then I'm going to do kind of blind. It's like, all right, I know how much they're spending. I know their seasonality. Could I predict how much revenue they did in December? And that's one of our stronger spots is, that kind of out of sample back testing.
So basically like you have like infinite numbers of scenarios.
Covariance is another thing. Like these covariates could be, we're working with the retailer now. It's like there was a bunch of the fires in California. What was the impact of stores being burned down to their whole business? What's the impact of the number of new stores opening? What's the impact of foot traffic? Or what's the impact of being Guitar Center and having a rock concert a half a mile from your store in Detroit? That's going to drive, right? And so these models, they want to try to figure out and explain as many signals as they can.
Interesting. How would you feed it data like that?
We have a very simplified data schema where you can kind of enter in events, if you will. Or same thing with an influencer. You pay an influencer up front, a big chunk of change. MMMs like to see what we call time series data.
Time series data.
Yeah. And so how do you normalize? We have some great resources internally that work with influencer data, podcast data, radio data. And we have really good ways of kind of normalizing that.
Do you look like at like impressions from a source, like over time if it's an influencer?
Impressions are a wonderful input to have. Obviously, we love to have the spend. But we kind of estimate out what like a spend decay would look like.
Yeah, like if there was a
For an
one-time
influencer.
payment from an influencer,
Yeah.
how does that look like?
Yeah.
Let's say you have like a 100K payment to an influencer.
A lot of it comes down to like the intuition of what the marketer believes. You always want to meet the marketer, what their intuition is. But it's like, all right, well, over time, they're going to see X many impressions over time. Like, how does that correlate to the spend? And then, hopefully the models are back testing with good high levels of accuracy with those assumptions. And you can start to just get more and more confident in it and how those are set up.
Interesting. So basically, you have flexibility to add different types of data sets.
Absolutely.
Into the model.
Weather data, gas price data. We have some doomsday prepper companies that like,
I love that shit.
like shit's popping off in the world. Like their sessions are going up and you can measure those things pretty easily if you can control for the right things.
So basically MMM's been around for a long time. It became more popular post iOS 14 because people started to realize deterministic attribution was kind of a sham.
Yeah. Went up of funnel. People were like, shh. That's why you saw a lot of the MTA tools bolt on an MMM recently because their clients are like, well, I'm spending on YouTube and I got 1 million impressions and I got 4,000 clicks. Probabilistically, the delta between the impressions and the clicks, some of those people went to Amazon.
Yeah, it has an effect.
Search them. Who takes the credit for that? Last click takes the credit. So especially if you have a high AOV brand. I was looking at brands, it's about $800 AOV and I was like, just
yeah, you can't use last click.
Dude, they had 4 search campaigns. It was a 400 ROAS, like a 289, and they're spending on 9 channels.
Yeah.
It's crippling. If they don't have an MMM, it's crippling to try to go scale those channels, right? If you don't have that.
Basically, like, would you say this is accurate? Like, MMM is a much better way to categorize the impact or quantify the impact of your brand awareness advertising.
People want to feel confident that when they show up to work and they're making a bet on the top of funnel in a very difficult channel to measure, that didn't waste that money. It's like, or they're continuing to waste the money because they don't have a right way to measure it. Right?
Yeah.
So they want to feel confident. And so M&M's top of the funnel. And the other thing is that, I think we're particularly well known for is M&M tells you what you should go do next and then predicts what's going to happen.
Right? How does that work?
Well, we're looking at things like, for us specifically, and, to give away some of our secret sauce because it's, pretty public now, but like we've been able to come up with some research so we understand the ratio between top of funnel and bottom of funnel. Meaning like, hey, you have these seasonal moments coming up and we know these are sort of tentpole moments for you. We see a ton of brands that are spending at the wrong time in advance of these seasonal moments. It's like driving down the highway, opening up the sunroof and just letting the money fly out the top of it. So some cool things our model will do is we'll say, hey, we know when you need to start spending on your top of funnel on which campaigns, based off of the predicted impact of just seasonality doing its business, right? For your brand, right? You have to have spend on your top of funnel to fill your bottom of funnel. You have to spend on the bottom of the funnel, right? To show up when these people are going to be coming there. So that's one way to do it. The next way to do it is those saturation plots I was telling you about. Now, the saturation plots are essentially, you have your spend in whatever metric, like CAC, new customers, revenue, ROAS. How much should you spend on each campaign? And so when you think of Nielsen, that would do that once a year in a model. With our platform, you can go select whatever campaigns you want, enter in a budget, click a button, and 20 seconds later, it's going to tell you to increase your spend on these campaigns and decrease your spend on these campaigns. It's going to predict out what that CAC or new customer will be at an individual campaign. Since our models run every single day, we'll actually tell them after a few days if we think we're on track, if they think they're on track to hit the forecast or not, right? George Box, famous statistician, all models are wrong, but some are useful. How do you make the most useful model? Well, you tell them ahead of time when you think you're going to be wrong so they can make changes to it.
How long does it take? Like, do you quantify model accuracy?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
How do you think about that?
Well, we predict out what we think is going to happen, and then we look to see how well we did the prediction or not for an individual campaign.
There's actually a lot of risk on that because people are making money moves, basically.
And we can see if they make changes, though. We'll track to tell them exactly how much is spent, and we'll tell them if they're on track to take our recommendation. We keep a very close eye on the models. Will keep an eye on that. The other question I think you're asking is like, well, how long does it take for you to start getting a kick signal if they're going to be right or wrong?
Yeah.
If you run a 7-day, a weekly optimization model and you have a price point of $2,000, right? You're probably not going to be able to pick up a whole bunch of signals as quick. If you have a CPG brand, and you have a $40 AOV, you have more conversions. That's when we can start to.
I'm curious in like anecdotally, like when brands onboard with Prescient, how drastically are they changing their media mix?
5 to 15%, sometimes up to 20. Depends
Okay.
on the risk tolerance of the brand. We'll tell them not to onboard to the platform if they're not ready to do that. You have to.
You have to make changes.
What are you going to do? MMMs hate static consistency. I'll sometimes look at some clients and I'm like, they're spending at $300 a day for like 3 weeks, and they go up to $500 a day for like 3 weeks. And the model wants you to see you spend and kind of build these scatter plots, and that's how these saturation they want to see scattered spend, and that's how these saturation plots start to form.
And so in Q4, like you have big spend drive seasons for e-commerce. Like,
oh, for sure.
Do you give people scenario planning?
That's exactly what the model will do. Is we run these scenario plans. We're a few weeks out from it, but these scenario plans will largely be powered by brand specific agents that are just, you'll be able to go ask questions. Hey, we have a target that we need to hit over. How can we, decrease our CAC by X% over the next quarter? How much money do we need to spend to hit this revenue target? And these agents are going to go out and come back with very specific information and come back with very specific recommendations.
You need a great model to do that.
Well, this is the thing, and I'm going to go off topic for a little bit, but this we've been chatting about all day, and I'm here in New York talking about all week, is compound AI. This is going to be the future. The founder of Databricks has been writing about this. Compound AI, and you think of historically in AI, you'd have this like one monolithic model, right? You had a fraud model, you have a forecasting model, you have an optimization model, and they all kind of stayed separate from each other. Gartner says 60% of agentic AI projects are going to fail by the end of 2027. Why are they going to fail, right? Compared to the competition, or compared to folks like us that are building these compound AI models, essentially, compound AI is a whole suite of machine learning models that talk to each other. And then the agents talk to each other as well, based off of the specific tasks and functions that they could form, the specific tasks that they perform. So you could have an audience agent, you could have a creative agent, you could have a saturation agent, you could have a forecasting agent. And imagine putting a bunch of PhDs into one room to cover one specific general topic and their expertise in each one of them. And then every single day they get new data and they get smarter, right? And so I think that's going to be a big part of where MMMs evolve into. We look at a measurement as like a measurement intelligence, but we're moving towards, a universal intelligence, a universal automation.
What data sources are very valuable to you that you don't currently have access to?
It depends on the category of the brand. We just signed our first airline, betting sites, financial services company, which is much different inputs or assumptions than a consumer brand or retailer. But even within within the e-commerce space,
Yeah, like, do you have broad consumer spending like data?
you get more. A lot of these, like more, I'd say, enterprise, different verticals. They spend a ton of money on just third-party data.
Yeah, like Nielsen.
Yeah, Nielsen's a great example of that. Nielsen was a data provider and then turned into an MMM. Like a lot of Gartner has their own MMM. Like all these data providers that have access to this data, they try to create the value of including that into an MMM. For the brands, though, it's pretty straightforward. I was like, straight up, it's like, can you figure out what is the seasonality of the business? Can you figure out the buying cycle of the product is a huge one. They call these ad stock functions. And why does that matter, right? Because an MMM, Lucas spends today on, his bracelet, but somebody could purchase 2 weeks later. A group of people that came from the awareness of the day you spent at that time. So MMM needs to figure out like, hey, we believe that conversions within 21 days after a day of spend could actually be tied back to that spend. Typically with brands have a higher AOV, that consideration cycle's longer. That's a huge part of an MMM to try to figure out like at what's the amount of appropriate time that you can go back and redistribute that credit for those conversions.
So on a more tactical level, like So if an MMM gives channels credit, like for where they drive revenue,
Yep.
how, if Meta drives Amazon sales and Shopify sales, how do you think about how to segment that spend on a P&L basis? Because I think a lot of marketers, it's a bit antiquated. They put all Meta spend in D2C.
Yep.
And so you have different contribution profit on a financial basis. So it actually makes it tough for CFOs to actually like
Listen, I think like
deploy spend.
there's no magical answer there. I mean, this is why you deploy an MMM is there's $100 million the brand made 60 million on D2C, $40 million on Amazon, right? Pumping a bunch of Amazon ads, but it's not going to drive 100% of the revenue on Amazon. There's that big piece of the pie that's missing. It's like, can I get a little bit of a signal? I talk to brands all the time, dude. I'm sure you as well. It's like, hey, I turned off I cut my spend down on Meta and my Amazon sales went down, right? What's also interesting is, hey, we're pumping TikTok Shop. We're seeing a bunch of crazy information between TikTok Shop and Amazon, which has been very interesting, right? TikTok Shop's a big thing. There's a big halo effect on Amazon.
How do you guys think about that? It's so funny.
It's an awareness. TikTok Shop.
It's discovery.
It's a discovery play. We have a big pan company that we work with. We work with a few of them, but it was funny. The data was showing that people were going and looking on TikTok Shop, and then they were going to Amazon, check some reviews, and then they were going to buy the pans in Costco. Right? And the guy was like, I know these are all statistical things, but back testing was insanely accurate, right? Intuitively, it was like, this matches some of our intuition. And then it's one of these things you're on like more of like a
how do you test for that? Yeah.
Well, it's a lot of like back testing, and then they'll run they'll run holdout tests at the same time. And if the holdout tests are pretty close to what our measurement is, then it's like, all right, like this is starting to add up a little bit.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, every TikTok, we run TikTok Shop.
You guys doing TikTok Shop?
Yeah, we do. And like my whole thesis is like, I want the platform to be profitable, but I just don't think like it's not yet a place where people feel comfortable buying their consumables.
Agreed.
They discover, and like if you have a direct response, like impulse purchase, you buy there.
Yeah.
But like I'm not buying high AOV products there.
What do you think is like a good category for TikTok Shop?
Like gadgets.
Not a good category.
I think like gadgets are good. Like electronics, gadgets, anything that's demonstrable, like cheaper, lower volume. I mean, we've gotten other categories to work, like hair care, fragrance, more like I would say premium CPG, supplements. But I just feel like people like buying those products better if they're consumable on Amazon. And Amazon has this moat. They have the fulfillment network moat.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be a long time before TikTok can compete with that.
Have you guys started talking about like the retail media networks at all? Has this come up?
Yeah. I mean, we do retail media.
Yeah.
RMNs are big. I actually wanted to ask you like what you feel about RMNs, because I ask everyone like, I think Amazon has a great retail media ecosystem, but I think a lot of the search retail media networks, like I just don't understand how valuable those are going to be in a world where you're like on Comet or ChatGPT getting, shit bought for you.
That's a whole nother category, like these probabilistic models, and curious to see what data you get from that, but we could have a whole session on that. These media networks, everybody's going to create one that has some sort of marketplace or an audience. GoPuff, like, obviously Instacart, GoPuff, DoorDash. I mean, now we're as we're starting to expand into new verticals, we're doing a ton of research in this. So you have like Travelocity, the travel platforms have their own media networks now. Pharmacies have their own media networks now. Everybody is trying to monetize the inventory and the audiences of people on there. Where our value add comes in is, well, what if somebody is on, Target and they see, Lucas's black bracelet and you're like, oh, that looks awesome. Let me go check out some of the reviews on Amazon. So we'll be able to quantify, and as an unbiased third-party platform, right? Typically the ad networks enjoy us as a partner because we're giving that additional credit from last click on Amazon or Shopify and then redistributing some of that back up to their media networks. I think they're here to stay, and I think they're going to get wildly verticalized.
I think retail media is obviously, it's a huge part of the ad spend. I can't remember the exact figures, but like it's growing at an astonishing pace
100%.
in terms of how people are investing. And that's because you have like a lot of them are in closed loop ecosystems. Like if you look at Amazon, like their attribution data is really strong. If you look at DSP, for instance.
Yeah.
And I think people want other outlets to spend, especially if it's as close to the point of purchase as possible. It's like if I can, on my target spend, if I know it's driving 1P target sales
Right.
and it's driving velocities, like awesome. I'm going to keep spending there.
You 100% right as well. One thing we've been getting asked is like, do you think that is there a halo effect from Amazon onto D2C?
For the top of funnel advertising, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so for sure.
Do you think people go to Amazon and like search something, see it, and then we'll go over to the website and then purchase from there?
I think in certain categories like Whoop, I was actually thinking about this. Whoop, I would not buy a
great call, dude. I wouldn't want to buy it from Amazon.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel as authentic.
But I would see a Whoop top of funnel ad on Prime.
Yeah.
Or like, streaming. And then if I'm on the wearable category or I'm on Amazon and I get with an ad, I would be like, oh shit, I should buy that actually. It's a reminder. And then I'd buy on D2C because their D2C experience is awesome.
It's great, right?
Yeah. But I don't think there's many categories like that.
I don't think so either. I don't think, because we've been some people have said like, hey, can you do the halo effects on Amazon to D2C? And like, we've asked our clients being like, here's the 5 things that we can go build. Is one of those things building a bi-directional halo effect onto D2C from Amazon? And it hasn't been.
You're like, nah, but Amazon's it's a demand capture platform.
It's a demand capture platform. But the point you just brought up about the categories, it felt. I'm like, actually that checks out because I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's enough categories.
I think as Amazon builds out, like they just had that Roku partnership, like they're doing a lot more streaming, like
there could be an additional halo effect.
Yeah.
When you think of your brands, like do you talk to of your brands or clients or friends in the ecosystem, what's like the pulse or the take or the perception on measurement? Is it a facade? Is there too much stuff?
No, I think people actually care about it. I think it's like super critical and important. I think it's still at the point, like, I was pushing MMM by post iOS 14 and like, I am telling you, like those refresh meetings quarterly, like, people listen and they're like, oh, this is interesting, but they were not using it to make decisions. Right. Yeah. And I think now we have a software layer that's like what you're doing, that's actually getting people to make decisions that help them, drive better returns. Yeah. I do think there's by and large, like you're just scratching the surface. I think most of the market is still stuck in their antiquated ways of just having marketers or agencies create spend optimization signals based on like whatever they're feeling.
Yep.
Like I have clients today that literally look at channel ROAS
within the platform.
Yeah. And we've pitched, you and I have joint pitched deals, and like, I don't know what it is. Like why don't you adopt? But people are stuck in their ways.
They built good businesses.
It's going to take 10 more years for you to get full penetration on MMM.
It's going to take time. We're actually moving away from the measurement space in a sense where, really excited. We announced it last week, a new model release called Omen. We are an intelligence layer that sits on top of Northbeam, that sits on top of Tripwell, it sits on top of MTA, incrementality, post-purchase surveys, even other MMMs can come in here. And here is the ethos is...
Oh, you have other... how does other MMM?
Other MMMs? Oh, yeah, for sure.
How does that work?
An MMM is going to always have what they call a prior. This prior is a prior belief of what was this measurement on this time to inform the recommendation engine, right? It always has that. And typically the MMM is supposed to be, they call it a calibration with incrementality data, right? That's what people say because they believe that incrementality data is, kind of that source of truth at that point in time. So we have our own halo effect measurement, right? But we have a validation before a calibration layer, meaning, let me give you an example. We say that this tactic has a 3.2 ROAS. MTA says it's a 3.4. Post-purchase survey says it's a 3.6. Meridian calls it a 4.1. And the incrementality data calls it a 4.4, right? So you have all different forms of measurement that have different levels of ROAS for this tactic. Now, what we now do is we backtest each form of measurement within our models, and we give it to the marketer and say, you don't believe our math. That's okay. I don't want to be in the he said, she said anymore. Here's the data. You pick which form of measurement you want to inform our optimization models.
I like that.
Right? Because, well, why? Well,
choose your own path.
Choose your own path. Well, since our models update every single day at a campaign level, you're going to get the feedback loop if something's going to be all models are wrong, but some are useful. This is the most useful model for forecasting and optimization. We use state-of-the-art techniques for the saturation plots.
People have different preferences too.
1,000%. And so, we're actively chatting with some of the people in the ecosystem that I think people will be like, wow, these guys are doing business together.
Yeah.
And it's part of our strategic direction.
That's great. You want to be the layer on top.
The universal intelligence layer for enterprise automation is where we're going to take this business.
Are you, I feel like I have to ask this. Are you building a chat interface? Like people want to talk to the agent, the strategist?
Yeah. Initial prototype went live last week. You'll be able to, and it's very cool. You'll be able to ask what is the relationship between my top of funnel and seasonality, or how much does seasonality play a role in June, right? When should I cut most of my spend just because seasonality is going to do its work? Those are just more of the simplified questions. But imagine if you said, hey, I have a target I need to hit over the next 3 months. And how do I do it? Eventually, we're going to buy that media automatically for them for the channels that you can buy it. I think dashboards go away. I think people are just going to get a Slack message or a text message that says, hey, you're on track to hit that. You're on track to hit that target. Or just like Google Maps, I found a 5-minute faster path. You can stay where you're going if you want, but I found a 5-minute faster path. Our models are going to go back to a CFO and a CMO and say, hey, I found an opportunity to find a 5% incremental lift over the forecasted baseline that we're predicting now. Do you want to execute? Yes, no, more info, drops down more info, gives them the information. Yes, execute it. And then the models just start buying. So what do you need a dashboard for?
No, you just want to talk to someone that knows what they're doing.
I think that's wildly the future. Now, the agents that don't have the complete learning system that gets smarter and smarter, right?
They're at a disadvantage.
Well, it all that matters, dude. Look at Klarna. Klarna had 700 customer services reps, and Klarna was like, okay, we're going to fire them all. We're going to put agents down on them. Catastrophic. And this is just for customer service chatbots. When you're talking about media budgets and highly, highly dynamic, complex, competitive situations, 1 extra 0, you're fucked. You know what I mean? Chevrolet has a chatbot that they're selling cars for $1. Air Canada had a chatbot that gave wrong information from a legal perspective.
Yeah, there's a lot of risk.
It's a huge amount of risk.
Yeah, you need great. It's interesting because like the competitive advantage just becomes like the data source, the model,
100%.
And the sophistication of the math. Yeah, the tech. How good is it?
The math matters. And I try to talk to people all the time about that. They don't give a shit about it, to be honest with you. It's like, I took a recommendation. Did you make me more money or not?
Yeah. Yeah, that's performance marketing right there.
Performance marketing, man. But it's all the same. Like we're working with a $1 billion betting site and they're like, we want to be able to run ads and predict new customer deposits for the football season by Sunday football games, right? Only thing they care about is, did I get more new customer deposits? Did I sell more shoes? The industry doesn't matter. It's all the same question.
So Mike, how big is your team right now? Like to do all of what you're describing, like how much did it take? So, I know you guys raised a $10 million Series A, right?
Yeah, we've raised about 18 million so far. We spent 3 straight years of R&D. 90% of the company was all, multiple PhDs from Stanford and computational, like just absolute fucking beast. We spent 3 years building this model completely from scratch, questioning all of the other open source research papers. That was the hard part up front. And now the team is starting to balance more out on the commercial side. So it's heavy tech, but it's just really me and shout out to Laura, sales rep. Like her and I just turned it on over this last year together. And we're next phase of the business of growing that team and capital. And the next stage is, coming around the corner.
What can you share with us about the future? I
think you're going to start to see a lot of surprising partnerships, dude. Yeah. I think you're going to be like, these these guys are buddies. These guys are friends.
They're homies.
Yeah, I just
What about North Beam? I don't know about that.
I think like you know, I've met pretty much all of the other measurement founders that I haven't connected with them. They built 90% of our tier one clients are running, I would say, a combination of us, North Beam, and House, or measured layered in there as well. But
Where does Triple Whale fit into the equation?
I saw Triple Whale everywhere, man. And we still send Triple Whale and North Beam 3 to 5 deals a week, easy deals that will come in just Meta, Google, on Shopify. Proven, validated multi-touch attribution solution. It's great. So I don't know what's going to happen with MTA. My buddy Hans from Brewmate, shout out to Hans, takes me skydiving and stuff. He was just sitting there talking about like his measurement stack is largely starting to migrate away from the MTA because they have such a good pulse on Meta Google. They know it in and out. And it's like, I'm really trying to dial in on my retail presence, and I'm using, post-purchase surveys. I'm using incrementality and MMM to try to validate that. But so I think to answer that was really long-winded answer. I think you're going to see our team grow pretty quickly. You're going to see us verticalize into different verticals, and you're going to see us talking less and less about measurement and more about automation.
So on the product side, you have like smart PhDs, engineers, like people building product, and then it's you and Laura on sales.
Pretty much Laura and Will Holtz, like
I know Will.
He's strategy and ops, but like he's in the thick of it. Him and I have been partnering more on like the airlines, the more of like the upmarket
enterprise.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about Mike is he's a sales machine, enterprise sales machine.
It was interesting coming into selling to the. I love the Shopify community more than when I was at IBM wearing a suit and on the plane all the time. Like I've met some of the. Like I met you, I met some of my dearest, closest friends of people that are just building cool ass shit. But it was interesting to me to come
different sale.
I'm like, okay, like you just took the credit card and you ran it. Like,
you're like, I need to get the fuck out of this.
There's just a lot at stake for people building this shit, and I respect that. And they're making like big decisions off of this.
It's like any day could be your last.
Oh my God,
that's how it feels.
But the ecosystems is just like. I mean, when you think about your agency, right, and you're starting to see the LLMs and I mean, you just were so like more full service. You've already thought about building MMMs, but like, when did Matter start to like really pop in your head, being like, all right, we got to put hands on the keyboard and we need to differentiate ourselves in a way?
I think actually last year in Cannes, like 1 year ago. Well, because me and my co-founder, we just started. We were on the sidelines. When you're within an agency, you have this vantage point where you like, you know the software providers, you see them go through their cycles of like fundraising and the peaks and troughs and, how they kind of navigate. And then you also see the brand side too. You see like a ton of absolute crashes.
You get that. You get the holistic view.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's consulting, you just get crazy exposure, or like VC.
Yeah. And you know the ad networks, you got reps at Google and Meta. And so you get
but we saw the AI wave coming and we were like, whoa, like we need to future-proof the agency, one, but also like there's a huge wave happening in AI that we need to be a part of. Yeah. Just as like entrepreneurs, like just we need to have.
You got to show up to that race.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like generational opportunities.
What's next for you guys?
So I mean, we've divided the pie in that, we have these two sister companies. We have Darkroom, which is the agency. Yep. It's growing at like 60%.
Oh, love that.
Cash, 30% margins, like it's doing well. And then we have this technology business, which is it's in its infancy. We really started building past 6 months. Right. Jackson designed the interface. He's a world-class designer.
That's right. You guys are OG on the design front.
Dude, he's a world-class designer. One of the best in the game, in this ecosystem by far.
I'm excited to meet him.
He's a great guy as well. And two engineers cobbled together that prototype that you saw that went a little viral, and we got a ton of signups. But our whole thing is like, we kind of want to, on the agency side, we want to build like a Palantir type, like you have engineers and high level strategic consultants working on commerce businesses, but they're empowered by like a commerce layer, like a software layer.
100%.
That software layer is going to be Matter. It's going to be something that aggregates data from a bunch of different data sources and does a lot of the execution work that we've traditionally done in our outsource hubs or with our agency works. The junior talent that's just like fucking executing.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's the path. Right now we're thinking about we're probably going to like holdco that? We're talking through like, is that a holdco or are these two separate entities? Like,
Yeah.
what does that look like?
I mean, I think you go either way. One thing you just said that's very much spot on of your strategy is having kind of a labs approach. We call it Prescient Labs. This is just like the consultant side of things. We're taking in skunkworks, R&D, working with different design partners, see what sticks. So you're not like dumping in all these engineers to go build something. You kind of test it out in like a little like dev environment, if you will. And then be like, does it make sense to layer this into the product or not?
That's why we created two separate companies. We're like, this needs to be unencumbered by like the priorities of the agency.
It's wildly smart, dude. But you can use the transfer learning from one to the other and then monetize the relationships. That's actually a beautiful.
Yeah, it's complicated, but like this is what we're talking through right now.
Yeah, it's a good flywheel though. Like, this is like continuous learning cycle.
Our thing though is like, we think we can bootstrap the software business to like 5-10 million ARR.
No, dude,
we're like, we don't think we need to raise funds for that. We just like,
you're in a good spot.
Take EBITDA, put it into the business, like keep it lean.
Non-dilutive capital.
Yeah.
I mean, Series B is on a horizon, man. And like, we're on the hamster wheel and we started on the hamster wheel and there's no way off of it. Now we built all the models and we had to deploy them and it was to deploy. You need
cash. You need a lot of money.
Very specialized engineers and research scientists to be competitive in the space.
Let me ask you though, could you think you could have done it? You raised 18. Do you think you could have done it leaner?
It's hard to say, dude, because like we hired the best and the brightest to go get these models deployed.
But how do you determine how are you like, oh, you know what? We're going to raise 10. Like we need 10.
It's a good question. There's a lot of assumptions that go into it, but my co-founder is just a tenured guy in the space. He was like, it's going to take me, worst case scenario, you kind of always plan for the worst. Worst case scenario, it's going to take me 18 months to get these models, pipelines built, models deployed, UI, UX things, everything up and running. You raise enough money to make sure you have those engineers for, 3 years. And you tell the board and your investors, like, don't expect any revenue to come for the first 2 years. Like if you think the future is AI, and right, we were building AI in 2020 when we first started building these.
Yeah, true.
And
no cursor back then.
No cursor back then. It's funny, dude. I was on with some consultants the other day, and he goes, "I have a Christmas present for you," because I was talking to him about the way that we use a lot of neural networks in our models, which is very unthought of in the order of MMM space. Everybody says we have this Bayesian model. This is the big hot thing. We have this Bayesian
models. People love the Bayesian model,
right? It takes super expensive to run and slow. And so we have a lot of neural networks in our models. And this is what our value prop had been. Google comes out with a paper in June, last month. It said NNN, next generational neural networks are the future of marketing measurement. We've been building these next generational neural networks for 5 years. And that's why we're so excited about this compound AI. It's like the flexibility of what these neural networks can do. We have Bayesian models. We have 4 different AI models that are all ensembled together, that they all speak to each other and break everything apart and do it fast and cheap. And that's why you can run it every single day. But this is what fucking fires me up, dude, is like, this is a game about math. And now people are starting to pay attention that the math matters.
Yeah, it's math. It's
education,
sophistication, it's tech. And then it's also like speed and knowing where the market's going.
100%.
That's my favorite thing about this e-com space and like startups. It's like it's really a testament of like how much of a fucking like savage you are at executing.
100%. And like, what is your risk tolerance to be like chatting with some VCs? I'm like, listen, like we want people in your corner that's going to say, we're going into this world. We have no fucking clue what's going to happen, but we know that there's going to be a lot of movement from an artificial intelligence space. We know exactly what you have here. If you want to go make some sort of pivot because you see something happen in the ecosystem, we have your back, right? And that's going to be the people who are ready to take a fucking swing when they see something and do it confidently with no ego and just let it rip and you want to win. Like, there's going to be some absolute behemoth companies that are going to be produced outside of this next generation of AI. And, I think I didn't know Matter was coming out that fast, dude. It's like you guys did it quick, it's out, and now you get it tested and you just keep iterating on it. And
yeah. No, it's moving fast. Let's see. I'm excited for you guys to chat. We'll see if we can integrate.
Yeah, that'd be great, dude.
Dude, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. We actually finally got this done. For the audience, we had to reschedule this like I think 3 times, twice in Cannes, because this guy was he was doing too many sales.
Yeah.
Too many meetings. But
well, I'm glad I made it happen. And
Yeah, this was great.
It's good to see you. Let's go get a beer.
Let's grab a beer.
Yeah.